Ascension. For the past 3 summers, she had been attending the Center for a Holistic Life, located deep in the New Hampshire mountains. And every summer it was the same. 300 people, 14 workshops a day in everything conceivable. The added bonus was always a torrid weekend love affair. As soon as the car pulled into the campgrounds, as soon as she saw half-clad bodies oozing health, as soon as she smelled miso soup and caffex, the fantasy began. A smile grew from inside, lodged permanently, at least for a weekend, behind her eyes. Juices bubbled, and for the next 77 hours, she would not worry about food, sex, money, or getting to work on time. Here, her job was to let go. Her work was to be happy in the safe, womb-like 85 acres where release was the password and health on every level the goal. It was paradise, and she was Eve looking for her Adam. Except this time she would be Adam, having signed up for Yang-like experiences, African dance, near-death encounters, and a Zen retreat. And if she got bored with them, she could switch and sit in on something else. Given that profile of classes, she was covered physically, mentally, spiritually, and whatever wasn't healed, mended, or taken care of, she could get fixed by dropping in on the anger workshop or sweating in the sauna after a light supper of bean sprouts, fresh juices, and red zinger tea. Her catch this year was obvious, another seeker just as hungry as she, only shy about it. He obviously had not been going to summer camp very long and didn't know how to look perpetually happy. His cabin in the woods living alone vibe was apparent. In fact, she could smell the essence of wood stove, even on his summer clothes. His naivete made her ready to bring him out, ready to help him unwind, teach him her new age tricks and tantric positions, ready to initiate him into the goodies promised by the harmonic convergence, ready to show him his aliveness. Before she got down to her mission, Kate had something to learn, in addition to all of the secrets that would unfold with him, and that was, she had outgrown her teachers. Watching the instructors sign up, unpack, eat, walk, relate, she observed that they fumbled just as much as she did, that they knew just as little, and that they were differentiated by just one thing. They were convincing and charismatic enough to say, "This is how I do it," whatever it was that they did. That summer, she graduated to another level. Was she a teacher now, she wondered? And Jason was to be her first student. Wisdom preceded action, and she waited for the right moment to show him all she knew. In the meantime, she followed the center's schedule assiduously, getting up at dawn before everyone else for 1 hour of private rituals, then walking mindfully to hatha yoga class, walking even more attentively to a guided meditation led by a beatific Vietnamese monk who talked to her subconscious in a sweet, sexy voice, saying things like, "I am peaceful, I am happy, I send love to everyone," over and over and over, so that by the time she left there, it was on wings, a cloud of knowing. Eating breakfast at the dining hall, which seated 300, was an experience in the human condition. On the north side of the room, the Bernie Siegel exceptional cancer patient sat, glad to be alive. The anger workshop people sullenly occupied the middle of the room and reacted oversensitively to everything that looked like an oversight, interruption, or loud noise. African dancers, still sweating profusely from an early morning workout, picked at a few salad greens and exuded first chakra red light and heat, choosing to sit outside near nature, the earth, and the drummers who would lead them to deeper trances later on in the morning. All points of the wheel of time and existence were represented, right in one room, and yet out of that sea of faces, suntans, hope, sauna-clean bodies, and well-toned, having just swum across the lake, energies, she found him. Coffee? Cafes? Tea? I'll get whatever you need, she said, observing that he had finished his granola and was looking at the ocean of people a bit wistfully, and with the expectation of relieving his mountain-induced isolation. Coffee, Kate, he said, reading her name tag, while eyeing her large nipples at the same time. He was simple, easy to please, and getting high on the caffeine, a treat for him, since he usually drank herb tea made from the weeds he gathered and carefully dried each spring. They lingered over the morning drug until the place had almost completely cleared, and then went, aura, to the orientation, which was one half pep rally and one half pragmatic instruction in where to receive emergency phone calls. Oh no, the world comes here after all. And how to sign out. All this too will pass. Impermanence is everywhere. A die-hard male cheerleader type warmed up 300 expectant, soon-to-be reborn sentient beings with hoots, finger-wavings, karate yells, and obliquely obscene gestures, followed by an aging cult figure playing a 3-minute zither solo, sounding like a New Age American morning raga, accompanied by the audience's long tones. East has met West. The energy from 300 pulsating chakras times 7 went into hers, and she sent all of it mentally to Jason. Do you get it? Feel it? She asked him astrally, and he responded on her interior TV screen with a smile, nod, and slight roar. Pleased by the visualization and his response, she left orientation secure that something physical would follow, that what she had imagined would actualize. Aliveness, trust, and getting cured were in the air as they walked to their first workshop for the day, the theory and practice of rhythmic ascension, taught by Muhammad Olinji, a dark, red-eyed walking passion flower. Exotic is too mild a word to use to describe him, too tame for this alchemist who for 3 transported, transcended, transcendental hours led all 77 of them through spinal configurations, repetitive movements, rhythmic circling, sways, chants, visualizations, aids to union, and like the tiger running in a circle burning bright, turning into butter from the concentrated motion, they en masse turned at the end of 3 hours into an instant tribal unit, all because they had been brave enough to quickly drop body and mind. At lunch, Jason seemed transformed. Kate, let's have more, some dessert. I'm staying in a tent by the lake. It's far away from everybody and everything. The lotuses are out, yellow and white. I'd like you to come there. Come and see. Astral programming had worked successfully, and although a neophyte at this level of seduction, she was proud of her mental dating service, and so accepted, as if surprised by his offer. Are you sure, Jason? Don't you want to take this afternoon's workshop? No, I think we can do better on our own, he answered. So they went off to his private Tahiti, lit high-quality incense, lay breathing each other's smells, and moaned, moved, merged, melted outside and inside each other, received and gave golden showers on the edge of the lake, pissing long into eternally thirsty mouths, grateful that their healthy diets made the bright yellow, vitamin-enriched nectar both sweet-smelling and delicious. And for the remainder of the weekend, they occasionally came out for meals, a nude swim at dusk, and going to the bathroom in the woods, returning without hesitation, without guilt, without loss, to a new workshop that had now begun.
Recipe for using sexual energy. 1. Make yourself physically comfortable. 2. Remember your sexual fantasies, issues, and events, both positive and negative. 3. See and feel everything in a detached, non-judgmental way, as if you are watching a movie. 4. When the memory bank is empty, transform sexual feeling into vibration. 5. Let the vibration travel to every cell of the body and mind. 6. Eventually, vibration becomes soundless sound and lightless light. 7. Repeat whenever you desire. 8. Your comments.
One plus one equals one. My darling, do you remember these pictures? You took them when you were in Germany and I was stripping at the club. I will never forget that night and the subsequent nights, years, decades of our love. That particular night I was wearing a light blue see-through harem girl outfit. I made it myself, spending hours on the trim, each sequin hand-stitched. I came out, my hair clean, long, covering my face, my breasts exposed and firm. I wore high heels, gold, and then slowly, very slowly, moving to music, I strode like an Amazon around the room, dancing, stomping, my nipples erect, breasts becoming firmer, hands on my hips, my nails flashing red. I was Venus reincarnated, my perfect body ripe for you, bringing the soldiers to ecstasy, but you to me. I noticed you immediately, and a voice in my head gave me a message. He will be your friend, it said. So I was not surprised when you came to the dressing room late that night. Both of us were panting, and I knew why. Both of us had trouble talking. Both of us ran toward each other, soulmates. You were rough yet gentle, a boxer for 30 years, having won many titles, and still in training, so your body was incredible, as was mine. I will never forget your hands, large, firm, strong, almost overdeveloped, and yet so light, gentle, energy-filled. You placed many fingers inside me, and they felt like lightning rods. Yes, even that night in my dressing room it began. The moaning, sucking, licking, mutual satisfaction. Our differences astounded us, you an American soldier and me, a German artist stripping to survive. But it didn't matter, your halting German, my bad English. What we had was deep, nonverbal, and forever. And so it continues. I wait, you wait, we visit each other when we can. The eagerness pushes me to heights that are producing permanent states of union. I have become love itself in loving you. And so the wait gives me a chance to extend that passion to every minute of my day, my night. The air becomes you in love. Eating becomes you in love. Sleep is you in love. Every second is desire, completion, then more desire. I float. I do not breathe anymore. Life and death are one. Always yours.
Recipe for using sexual energy. 1. Make yourself physically comfortable. 2. Remember your sexual fantasies, issues, and events, both positive and negative. 3. See and feel everything in a detached, non-judgmental way, as if you were watching a movie. 4. When the memory bank is empty, transform sexual feeling into vibration. 5. Let the vibration travel to every cell of the body and mind. 6. Eventually, vibration becomes soundless sound and lightless light. 7. Repeat whenever you desire.
Cleaning houses. Cleaning houses was the only viable alternative to her life as it was. 2 years of sitting, writing a doctoral thesis on the morphology of molecular biophysics had made her sluggish physically, so when she saw the ad for Purificators, a new age housekeeping service in the paper, she applied. half in jest, half seriously. Ever since the harmonic convergence, she had been purifying, shedding skin in snake-like fashion, even to the point of being asked to move. Next to breast cancer, moving was her worst fear, having to uproot, pack everything, find storage, etc. A nightmare for an earthborn Capricorn. It meant going through 4 file cabinets, weeding out her archive and looking at the past. To save or not to save, that was the question, regretting that she wasn't famous enough to send the whole thing off to a major university for them to mind, making it available to students eager to learn her process and thereby facilitating and speeding theirs. But that wasn't the case. She played with fame, avoiding it, not performing those small professional details which made for visibility and grants, not schmoozing with those who mattered in the field. As a result, she was always financially bereft and needy. So instead of going to departmental heads and assertively claiming a token women's position or chair at the prestigious college across the river, she cleaned people's bathrooms. It was a sociological problem. Wives were now working and too busy to do the things in the home, so she filled that function. It was really very absurd because she would run in with a cleaning partner and in 2 to 3 hours, they would restore order and good smells again. She was a maintenance and prevention expert who often never met her clients while becoming intimately involved with their coffee makers or Balinese mask collections. In the meantime, they became intimate with their computers. Amanda often sensed that the Industrial Revolution made fools of us all, wrenching us from roots and a simple life. In her wildest fantasy, she saw the picture clearly, everyone owning a home, but leaving in the morning to rush to the home next door to work, only to come back at 6 to repeat the process over and over for years. Or else they stayed home glued to their home office computers and needed her because they were just as busy, but this time at home. Participating in the cycle peculiar to the computer age, which heralded a megatrend, she grew to realize what she wanted. It was more from life. She wanted to stay home and see clients, real people, and get involved in the software of the 90s bodies. Even if that meant being a massage therapist. That way she would still be doing a physical service, but this time cleaning out tensions from necks and polishing auras. If she were at home doing that, she could remain informed, stimulated, educated, and financially solvent. Strange what other jobs can teach. Here she was cleaning houses, and at the same time doing a vocational counseling job on herself. Although not perfect, the situation did offer some interesting diversion. Peter, for example. The first time they came to clean, he instructed, "Don't touch that lamp, it's an antique and quite fragile. The floor gets sticky if you use anything but ammonia. That's the kids' playroom. You don't have to clean that or my office." Impressions were flying all over the room, and he had already passed her first test. Sparks flew like darts between their eyes, and strongly musked animal scents exuded the thought, "Yes, I like you," chemically. She approved not only of his aesthetics, but loved the way he let the children have a free space for playing. That was more than a plus. We're all commercial artists that way. Ordered, tasteful, liberal, clean minds everywhere, well-stacked libraries, state-of-the-art clocks, videos and sound equipment, all the right Fisher-Price toys. He must have come from an Ohio farm community at one time, since his tendencies toward clean design and simple, yet functional comfort seemed so Midwestern. Her mind raced. Making his bed, she saw herself in it. Precondition, misdirected energy. It took heavy programming not to want him, having already had experiences with married men when she was in her 20s, falling mutually and deeply in love and yet being enough of a feminist to not want to hurt the other woman. The whole thing stunk of pain for everyone, and she vowed never to do it again. But it was almost as if she forgot, almost as if her hunger for mutuality and nourishment outweighed experience and common sense She was smitten, becoming his surrogate wife, just the cleaning aspect each Thursday, seeing the wisdom of the statement, what you clean, you own. And although the kids were at the nursery school and she never saw them or his teenage daughter, she already felt them to be hers. Kathy, the other purificator, was her only check on reality, because if it weren't for her, she would have gone into his office and consummated her desire. After 2 months of this particular form of madness, she found herself in the situation she had longed for. Kathy called in sick, too late for the agency to find a replacement, so she would be doing the job alone. The nearness set up an intensification, an inner fire. They both sensed it, even though they were rooms apart. Lust was being converted to bomb-like equivalencies. He came to the kitchen where she was washing the floor on her hands and knees, reclaiming Catholic martyr fantasies and feeling like a 12-year-old Italian saint, cleaning the house, purifying herself and the home at the same time, being the good girl. And what happened was almost surreal. The dream once dreamed. She remained on the floor, her ass in the air. He knelt in back of her, slipped in, and fucked. The fire remained. It never happened again.
Recipe for using sexual energy. 1. Make yourself physically comfortable. 2. Remember your sexual fantasies, issues, and events, both positive and negative. 3. See and feel everything in a detached, non-judgmental way, as if you are watching a movie. 4. When the memory bank is empty, transform sexual feeling into vibration. 5. Let the vibration travel to every cell of the body and mind. 6. Eventually, vibration becomes soundless sound and lightless light. 7. Repeat whenever you desire.
Real business. It was summer. Paula was hot, but in the air-conditioned office, she was able to divert herself by directing her mind and attention to stocks, bonds, IRAs in the market. As one of the first women to make it out to the floor to do trading, she held a position of esteem and privilege in a world dominated by men and the old boys club. Not once did this even tempt her away from her femininity, probably because years of dealing with the opposite sex as a businesswoman had taught her many strategies now useful to the younger women she mentored. You don't have to jeopardize your womanliness, but you do have to give up a number of things to gain respect and make a position for yourself. One is easy love affairs. If you do otherwise, you'll have many lovers who despise you. Instead, have many friends with whom you'll be on easy, equal terms. That was the advice she gave. It was substantial and held for the 80s, when the first thing you did before kissing someone was to find out if they had had a blood test recently. Now, couples remain together because it was better than wearing rubbers with someone new and maybe not safe. Paula's reasons for loyalty were different. For the last 7 years, she had been obsessionately, passionately, intensely in love with a married man who also worked at Shearson's. His marriage protected both of them, providing a safe space and framework that they found flexible. She was more than a mistress, more than a second choice, more than the other woman, because the arrangement pragmatically offered her time and space to write books, to teach classes in self-defense, and to meditate. Tony's needs were different. He wanted children, a wife, a traditional world that gave him stability and the courage that spirited him through life. Coming together was always ecstatic, and since they had private offices, it was quite simple. Paula had always turned on instantly at the drop of a gray flannel suit, white shirt, and expensive tie, so Tony had the advantage. Their encounters were daily, that is, Monday through Friday. To communicate, they designed a private code on the intercom. Messages were untranslatable, no one suspected. Her therapist often asked why she was so fascinated by men in business suits, and her response was that they had everything under control, were intellectually ruthless and loved money. This added up to passion. So she studied the field, worked with them, took on all their best qualities while remaining a woman. Thursday's lunch was special, an anniversary of the day they met. She called him. They met in her office. "I'm coming just thinking of you. Eat me," she moaned. "You don't have to touch me today except with your tongue and your lips." He fainted mentally with pleasure with the thought of 45 minutes of sucking and licking. Remembering how she fondled him in her mouth yesterday for the entire lunch hour, she asked him to take his cock out, place it between her large, succulent lips, and he unzipped his very expensive pants, and a perfect, full, erect, hard-waiting penis came out as if it had a mind, heart, and need of its own. She was on her knees, in front of him, not worrying about getting cum on her silk blouse, but that was yesterday. Today he returned her sweetness by being sweet, by sliding her carefully on top of her desk and eating her without greed but with intense desire. "I can't stand to see your entire body today. I would die if I did," he said. Imagining a softness that drove him insane, kneeling by the altar of love, he drank devotionally. Both surrendered. And then with competent moves, they positioned themselves as if neither initiated the movement. Both benefited, and they found themselves on the rug in front of her desk, where they exchanged like two incredibly hungry, free children, nourishing each other to satisfaction and tears. "Will you come to Maine with me on my boat for a week, Paula?" He spoke the invitation into her cunt. Echoing it to her ears, her response was, exciting his cock to another erection with a hum. To begin their trip, they met clandestinely at a small hotel in Kingston, New York, and by morning were drunk with oneness. Defenses were down and gone, tensions fucked away, fears forgotten, separations bridged, and existential loneliness cured. And after hours of breakfast in bed, plans to buy a place in the country, taking another shower, and beginning again and again and again, they left the sun-bright motel in the woods and drove to the marina and their boat Cocoon, where they would live for the next 7 days. Can you imagine the effect? The effect of being outside, being together, the effect of water, of green, of wildflowers, of being away from the Dow Jones averages, the effect of docking off coves in a small yacht, of living together carefully while performing improvisatory dances of love, which were a testimony to the genius they both had for finding truth and beauty in each other. Can you imagine fishing, eating, fucking in that floating womb? And like all fertile couples, they felt the need to add, to multiply, to share, except their child was the ultimate quiet behind all motion, nature herself.
Recipe for using sexual energy. 1. Make yourself physically comfortable. 2. Remember your sexual fantasies, issues, and events, both positive and negative. 3. See and feel everything in a detached, non-judgmental way, as if you are watching a movie. 4. When the memory bank is empty, transform sexual feeling into vibration. 5. Let the vibration travel to every cell of the body and mind. 6. Eventually vibration becomes soundless sound and lightless light. 7. Repeat whenever you desire.
East meets West. Their relationship thrived on differences. Brian, an American, had always been his own person, a self-defining visionary, somewhat cynical, always the artist. She was Sri Lankan and new to this country. Although groomed to be a Buddhist nun by an overly devout father, Karuna, a name loosely translated as compassion, chose social action as her life's work, becoming an activist and environmentalist. As a layperson, she could do and say what she wanted without the restriction of vows and yet practice the Dharma. The Sri Lankan government sponsored and paid for her trip to LA primarily because they were gathering strategies to organize against large industrial pollutions in the air, and also because the medfly was beginning to worry them. In a few cases, fruit had carelessly slipped through Indian customs, and the island's produce was as threatened as Orange County's. But it was worse in LA because not only were the fruit and avocados being eaten by the medfly, people living in the La Brea, Mount Washington area were reporting strange physical illnesses from malathion, a syrupy chemical sprayed nightly by 4 helicopters. Some reported that it ate out holes in cars parked in driveways. Others reported vomiting, headaches, flu-like symptoms, and a paranoia new to residents of a normally laid-back community. Vietnam vets were re-nightmaring napalm. Always the missionary, Karuna was determined to do something for the people here as well as for her people at home. And since she was a vegetarian and natural earth mother for the land itself. Scene 1. They met in a neutral and most probable place, the Bodhi Tree bookstore on Melrose. Brian was looking for shiatsu books, even though he suspected Eastern cures, the New Age, and any alleviation of his neuroses and suffering. Since shiatsu was somewhat painful, it was allowed into his worldview, which had not changed since the late 70s. He was angry, and the tragedies in his life were becoming more intense. His response was Western. My life is a nightmare. I will make art. Karuna noticed him on her way to the herb section of this New Age supermarket, hoping to discover an antidote for this poison. His blonde hair, her oriental version of Farrah Fawcett hair, but this time black and shiny with Ayurvedic oils, her large lips, his Pinocchio nose, her island breasts, his swimmer legs activated something primal. They fused, mobilized, merged. She found it impossible not to smell him, and knowing a lot about acupuncture, guessed that his triple heater meridian was working overtime. In fact, smells from his body incensed the air around him like a clothes dryer, emitting perfume from jasmine or musk-scented wash. Smell was her nemesis and could produce altered states in her quicker than 4 hours of sitting motionless in the family temple during morning worship. His weakness was lips and hair. Scene 2. Cut to his Santa Monica studio with a 25 by 25 foot violet-colored room he was using for sensory deprivation experiments. Cut to his insistence that there is a God and that his body was real and solid. Cut to his penis in her mouth for hours. Cut to her lips and tongue sliding organically around it using an island technique learned from observing dolphins and manatees and breastfeeding babies. Cut to his long blonde hair feathering her breasts. Cut to his need. Cut to her detachment. Cut to him pressing her with his strength. Cut to her contained action, which became non-knowing, then knowing, then non-knowing. For her, none of this was a problem. She was, after all, guiltless, Asian, a Buddhist, and knew that she was conditionally creating herself and her own world, endlessly bringing into existence that very moment by means of and because of desire. She tried explaining to him that he was nothing, a nobody, not even a person, replaceable. She laughed at his insistence on the importance of food, sex, money, sleep, and himself. He cried in her arms, then spoke. His words were hardly discernible. Suck me, baby. I hate you. I know you're enlightened. You win. Just suck me. Let me suffer and make art. Then you buy it, baby. Now sit on me and teach me how to meditate. Then just suck me. Cut to no separation.
Recipe for using sexual energy. 1. Make yourself physically comfortable. 2. Remember your sexual fantasies, issues, and events, both positive and negative. 3. See and feel everything in a detached, non-judgmental way, as if you are watching a movie. 4. When the memory bank is empty, transform sexual feeling into vibration. 5. Let the vibration travel to every cell of the body and mind. 6. Eventually, vibration becomes soundless sound and lightless light. 7. Repeat whenever you desire.
Making it. It was hard enough being an artist in New York City, with studio apartments renting for $2,000 to $3,000. But to make matters even worse, it had been 96 degrees outside for the last 3 days and nights. The heat exhausted them even more than the treadmill that they were on. Doggedly, determinedly, Jennifer and Stephen pieced together a life as they had for the last 2.5 years, with gallery jobs, putting up walls, consulting, waitressing, and sometimes dalliances in real estate, the ultimate cause of all their problems. Before downtown Manhattan was so popular and called Soho, spaces were large, rents low, so that no one had to work hard to eat or sleep. Art then was about a lifestyle which happened in luxurious time-space frames. Now it was business, no longer mental and physical play. And money back then was hardly an issue, seeming to come miraculously from little effort, or maybe the sky. That's how easy it was. Now was entirely different. Both of them had made it, were famous overnight stars with reviews in Art Forum and Japan Times, as well as 150 other newspapers and magazines. To keep everything going, they needed more money, yet had less time to make the art that might bring the money, which resulted in extraordinary amounts of stress, which they blamed on the system. Once you're famous, they think you're rich, Jennifer told Stephen almost every night over steamed veggies and Sue Simmons' nightly report. Stephen responded with his own worries. I'll have to call my agent to see if she booked that 10-week teaching gig at UCLA, which should cover the cost of the new video I'm working on. They often wondered if this is what the Buddhist precept right livelihood was all about. Would their pace and need to be in the world so intensely coexist with enlightenment? Or was the work similar to a Herculean boulder being pushed up an art hill? Maintaining the fame to pay the rent was a dialectic seemingly without solution or merit. That was the pattern. Days at other people's jobs and nights at their own work. But after 4.5 hours in their studios, they forgot the day and became themselves again. Jennifer's 36D breasts responded first, signaling, anticipating Stephen's hot hands. Although neither of them ever needed the added excitement, she often put on a red push-up bra, spilling herself over the top, nipples half showing. Stephen, would you like some milk before we go to bed, she asked, appearing at his studio door, then pushing her body into his. With a judo-like strength, her ass sliding against his cock, which massaged his balls since they were both sitting on an art chair he was working on for a performance at the kitchen. He felt her up from behind, wanted to nurse, but limited himself to touch. Reaching behind to grasp the back of his head, she would pull his face into her neck, up her back, his nose nuzzling, in her hair, smelling everything. She felt him grow even harder, if that was at all possible, but constrained by her ass pushing against him, a mini bondage. Unable to stand it any longer, he picked her up, turned her around to face him so that his tongue could be satisfied. A hunger that never ended, and eating without food. Their mouths were caverns of delight, caves of pleasure, wet rhythm makers. They played slowly at first, giving completely with soft lips, teasing, thrusting, pressing their tongues together, as if on a pane of glass, exchanging wavelengths and twin vibrations, ionizing with that watery muscle. No more was needed, but they continued, generous with their pleasuring, giving gifts, getting gifts. His cock was now tight between them. Both of their stomachs created vaginal lips, large ones, lubricated with summer sweat and spit, that she dropped purposely down on the head of his erection. Likewise, his balls imitated or became a mock vagina for her clitoris, now hard and large enough to rest between and in their softness. "Who's first tonight?" she asked, knowing it was her turn since they traded off every week. It was her turn to be assertive, to ask, to come first or not at all, to tell the truth. "Me first," she breathed in his ear, "me first, and I'll tell you how I want it." She led him into the bathroom, hardly able to walk, his penis a divining rod, desiring her ass, her cunt, her cleavage, her mouth, everything, a place inside. Lowering themselves slowly into the hot tub, they sat, rebirthing, breathing, clearing out old conditioning. "This is sex too, Stephen. I'm coming all over, up my spine, in my crotch, around my eyes, and it's because of us. This is what I wanted and more." The dance was not over. In fact, the improvisation had just begun. She swam to him, he lowered himself into the water, and simultaneously into her clean cunt with a punk haircut. Lifting her legs over each side of the tub, spread her more, so that he could eat higher and deeper. Harder, harder, yes, that's right, instructing him shyly, assertively. With her orgasm, she descended down his body, a slide, a fish-like move, eventuating in his cock, going deep inside her, becoming an anchor. They moved as if twins in utero, safe in placenta liquid. "Now let's dry off and go to bed. I'm not finished with you," she said, after a half hour of lying together in the water, joined at the genitals, absorbing mucus, rhythm, warmth. By then they were deified, prepared, opened, having set up an atmosphere of trust, exchange, potential flight. The reality of drying off didn't break the mood or concentration, just turned it to another level, that of practicality, but none so consciously that it was sensuously sacred. "Do my back, Stephen," and he dried her shining skin with an attitude so maternal and so unabashedly adoring that she cried with gratitude and an even deeper release. "Stephen, I can't bear another moment. Do I deserve all of this love?" Secretly thanking the years of therapy and hard work that both of them had done on themselves to clear any barriers in the way of trust. They were now truly innocent, as if in paradise. That guilt-free, that available, that giving, and they continued, "Let me on top, I'll slide slowly, then suck you so that I can taste you and myself," and she began arousing his balls, both in her mouth at the same time, as if bowling, propelling them out of her mouth into the penis, which got exceedingly harder as she ate. "You're my ice cream, my sun, my tower, my father, my God, fuck my tits. Push into my roll." He slid in, wet with her saliva. "Jennifer, I can't wait any longer. Let me come." "Wait," she pleaded. "It's my night. I want to give us more." And she began riding him, all 7 inches, in, then out, in, then out. "Use your fingers on me. Let's come together." He knew exactly how to do that, light streaming from his sculptor's hands, setting off a current that flowed from the base of her spine to the crown of her head. "Fuck me. Show me how much you want to fuck me. I'll give you everything. Just fuck me. Love me, fuck me." And he did it over and over. They groaned like lions that night, like the earth thawing in the spring, like an electrical synapse in motion, exquisitely timed and synced. While laying together afterward, consciously moving the energy between them, she didn't have the heart to tell him that she would need the abortion after all, since her pregnancy was fallopian.
Recipe for using sexual energy. 1. Make yourself physically comfortable. 2. Remember your sexual fantasies, issues, and events, both positive and negative. 3. See and feel everything in a detached, non-judgmental way, as if you are watching a movie. 4. When the memory bank is empty, transform sexual feeling into vibration. 5. Let the vibration travel to every cell of the body and mind. 6. Eventually, vibration becomes soundless sound and lightless light. 7. Repeat whenever you desire.
Forever 1. The time between visits was too long. His job in the States took him away from her, but she knew that every Friday night he would be flying into the Honolulu airport, and that it would begin again. They would remember. 1 week seemed like forever to be away from their roots, from their culture, from their fire. The ritual was always the same. That provided a continuity and memory and sweetness that contained their desire until they could get to the beach. It was then that they truly relaxed. But Kalana made it possible for it to begin immediately in the airport itself. She would run toward him with her fuck me shoes on, and the pattern was always the same. Her embrace was all-embracing and included running the heel of her shoe up his taut leg. He shivered in response. The week of being in the business world, escaping like vapors through the shoe acupuncture and psychic holes she pierced in always the right spot on his leg. He loosened his tie, and she would smile with passion at the sight and smell of the nape of his neck. Harani, say nothing. Don't talk. Let go of the week. Let's use every second of this time. We don't need to rush. He would drive, and she saw, then felt his penis beating against his gray pants, still smelling of Wall Street ticker tape and Manhattan lunches. Work hard, play hard, she teased in a low, sexy voice, helping them both justify their high-pressure jobs and the time away from each other. And like most successful urbanites, they invested wisely in both their relationship and real estate, and therefore had 3 nests they could play in and transform into tree houses, church, brothel, boxing ring, judo mat, each place changing to satisfy a mood or desire. Fridays they went to their private island, not to her condo in Honolulu, but immediately to the water. In fact, they slowly became water as they got closer to the site. She put their favorite tape on, changing the car and themselves into receptive entities, deprogramming the distance that physical space, time, and necessity had imposed on them. It was a 20-minute ride. With Brian Eno's music, time was inconsequential. And then another 10-minute boat trip to the island secretly named Amora, Hawaiian for mystic love. The walk from their boat to the beach home was unnerving. She never knew if he or she would make it. They stopped, his tongue finding her flower or her tongue. Often she would faint with feeling, and he would fall on her in a similar ecstasy, then realize she was incapable of walking. So he would carry her, moaning, to the cabin. It had been that way for several years, the intensity getting stronger, not weaker with time. Inside, primitive rites of passage, things native to their soul, would begin because they would be in their element, true natives, true inhabitants of their own land, their own climate, their own flowers and smells, true inhabitants of each other. The beach house was simple, unpretentious, easy, a bed, jacuzzi, kitchen, large room, empty. It was their playpen. Fantasy became reality there. All that they had imagined using the visualization process taught them by grandmothers long ago came to pass, and more. And it was sacred. Their golden skin emitted flames of fire, and they would sit quietly for some time in this heat, looking, merging, letting that ferocious energy, that flame energy, burn through their barriers and demons. Many years before, they had learned how to make themselves comfortable by facing the eye-bulging, multi-headed, many-armed images that might spoil their union, and they gave time to pacify these distractions with almost violent vigilance, until there was a stream, a thread, a web of oneness that was inescapably seductive, unspeakably magnetic. After 3 hours of purification, of just sitting and watching each other, they would bathe, and that was when their child selves would feel safe enough to emerge. Their innate knowledge of touching and massage, a cultural inheritance, was a gift that they freely exchanged. So between the water, jacuzzi jets, and light-charged hands, their bodies became luminous with similarly charged ions. They worked until they were physically one, having done that psychically with sitting, facing each other, and just being totally present. By then, they were engorged, full. Blood vessels were close to the surface. He was hard, then soft, then hard. She was soft and hard simultaneously. His shoulders got broader, her hips wider. He rode her, she rode him. They milked each other for hours, without fatigue. They weren't bodies anymore, but typhoons and tidal waves and blooming orchids. They knew the secret of imitation and transmigration of themselves into elements and particles, into planetary phenomena mirroring nature by forgetting corporeality, at times becoming stars, the sun and moon conjuncted, or a flowered mountain in spring. There was no exhaustion, only circularity. It was no surprise when they were both found on July 7, 1981, with his sun in her moon, both dead, another kind of one.
Recipe for using sexual energy. 1. Make yourself physically comfortable. 2. Remember your sexual fantasies, issues, and events, both positive and negative. 3. See and feel everything in a detached, non-judgmental way, as if you are watching a movie. 4. When the memory bank is empty, transform sexual feeling into vibration. 5. Let the vibration travel to every cell of the body and mind. 6. Eventually, vibration becomes soundless sound and lightless light. 7. Repeat whenever you desire.
The phone. This week it was his turn. He timed it perfectly. Knowing she would be back from her meditation class by 9:30, he allowed her an hour to eat, take a bath, and called it 10. In the meantime, she was steaming with desire. The first ring of her phone released a liquid down her thighs. "Hi, Joseph," she answered. "Let me do the talking tonight." He moaned approval as she got right into it. "First of all, you're very comfortable lying down on a large bed with fresh sheets, smells of sandalwood. A high-quality incense and flowers fill the room. Smell them. Bask in smell. Everything is smell right now, only smell. You swoon with it. Eventually, I come into your room, wearing a loose gown. Opening your eyes slowly, you see me, are happy. Wonder if I'm naked underneath the robe. That excites you. I'm radiant. My skin is soft, warm, smooth, easy to touch. I hold out my hand. You pull me toward you, eager to see what I have on underneath the robe. Rubbing my body, you discover by touching that I have on a garter belt, stockings, push-up bra. The thought of what I must look like wearing them drives you crazy. But you contain the urgency and kiss me, leaving my robe intact but eager to remove it. Insistence becomes desire, and as if charged by molecules, we begin moving together all over the bed. First I'm on top, then you. "Let me take it off, you say. I resist, wanting to heat myself until I am cooked with passion. Flames which you have caused with friction from your fingers and tongue have already begun in my cunt. You taste like wine, you say, and drink for a long time. Holding your head with my hands, I direct the pressure. Your cock is wanting to see me, and eventually pushes into my mouth a second vagina. I suck the head slowly, then rub my tongue down the sides and back over the entire shaft, eventually taking it into my throat. The warmth of you and my spit is too much. That's all that I wanted, your hands, your mouth, your closeness. Talk to me in another language. And you begin telling me how you really feel, but it's untranslatable, and therefore so deeply revealing that I understand it through instinct and intuition. Tell me more, Margaret, more, you say, speaking outside the dream in real time, because by now both of us are confused, and neither of us is sure if we are actually making love, or if we are remembering a time when we did, or imagining a time when we will. Neither of us are sure of anything having broken and stretched boundaries. Margaret continues. Then I strip for you, take the robe off slowly. You mention that I probably got it in Morocco, eroticizing me, making me an adventurer. I rise to the flattery and say, yeah, it's when I traveled there on assignment for Time Life books. A fantasy, the truth. Neither of us cares. My body is perfect, ripe, full. I belly dance for you. You respond by stroking your chest and thighs. Self-massage. Margaret, I'm getting too excited. I want to come. But no, talk more. Tell me more. I can wait. I can hardly talk myself, Joseph. I'm panting very hard, but I'll continue. I finish the dance, put my leg on the bed, and you look long, eagerly, lovingly at my cunt, giving us a chance to play doctor and nurse without any reproach or shame, just childlike wonder. I sit on your face, cover it so that you can eat again, and we continue our game. While holding both breasts, you want me to slide down your chest onto your cock, to be on top. You pick up my ass and bounce me up and down at a pace that drives you crazy. Your pace. I'm getting hot, so hot, Margaret. Stop it. By now, Margaret is hoarse, whispering the scenario, sound vibrating her body, her words. Then you turn me over and pump into me, running your hands over my chest, hair, ears, head. I tighten my pussy, then release, then tighten, release, massaging you rhythmically, coming together. The release is mutual, synchronous, animal-like. We lay energized and not exhausted, breathing audibly into the phone, oxygenating each other. Margaret used this time to give suggestions. Now, see every atom of your body energized, every immune system healthy, every gland filled with life. Your body of light shines free and clear. Thank you, sweet Margaret. That was wonderful. I'll call you next week, same time, same day. When they hung up, Joseph dictated this letter to the night nurse. Dear Margaret, the disease has taken its toll. In fact, I don't know if I have the strength to meet you on the phone for our Wednesday night date. Our time together has been incredible. But all I can do these days is check with the 3 or 4 doctors who come by each day to do tests, eat a little, and sleep, although it is difficult without oxygen. Evelyn, my nurse, is going to send you a list of AIDS symptoms. Please stop being so stubborn and get checked out immediately. Thanks again for being my phone buddy. I will always love you, Joseph. Symptoms of AIDS. 1. Excessive tiredness or shortness of breath for no reason. 2. Periodic fevers over 100 degrees, shaking, chills, high sweats for a month. 3. Losing 15% body weight not related to diet or physical activity. 4. Unexplained swollen glands in neck, armpit, or groin. 5. Flat or raised blotches or bumps on eyelids, rectum, mouth, nose. 6. Persistent, unexplained sore throat or dry, persistent cough. 7. Persistent diarrhea of unknown cause. 8. Easy bruising. 9. Unexplained bleeding from any orifice. 10. Blurred vision, memory loss, severe headaches.
Recipe for using sexual energy. 1. Make yourself physically comfortable. 2. Remember your sexual fantasies, issues, and events, both positive and negative. 3. See and feel everything in a detached, non-judgmental way, as if you are watching a movie. 4. When the memory bank is empty, transform sexual feeling into vibration. 5. Let the vibration travel to every cell of the body and mind. 6. Eventually, vibration becomes soundless sound and lightless light. 7. Repeat whenever you desire.
Swimming. It was California. Anything could happen. So it wasn't surprising that on the non-sexist West Coast, they had been members of a co-ed swimming team since early adolescence. Daily proximity established a bond between them, pre-knowledge. In fact, it seemed as if they were closer than college classmates because the water functioned as a medium of transmission, allowing them to be receptive, as if in a womb, as if in a placenta-like liquid coexisting as twins, picking up each other's thoughts, through the ever-moving element of water. Even then at 15 she desired him, at first purely, accidentally. She and her diary remembered the day. It happened at a swim meet they attended in San Diego. She passed by him on a narrow landing that surrounded the UCSD pool, her breast brushing against his back. That was enough to start a volcanic vibration in every molecule of her body. But even more primitively basic and alluring than touch was his smell. It was huge, an enormous smell if there is such a thing. It was like jungle animals, like elephants, like musk mixed with last night's old English shaving lotion. Smell woke her mind and heart. But they had to wait. Constraints. They were young, lived at home, had rigorous training schedules, and no time. Limitations forced them to become adept at giving nonverbal messages. Her nipples would erect uncontrollably and push against her bathing suit whenever she became chilled by the water or felt his glance. He sent fire beams from his eyes to hers, and it seemed that in combination they could heat up a 9 by 12 room with unexpressed longing. Eventually, what was happening on the etheric plane demanded to be realized. On his 20th birthday, they decided to move from symbol to reality, from thought to action, from mind to physicality, from vision to actuality. The thick blonde hair under her arms was included in his fantasy, for he knew that he would caress and gently stroke that area, as well as every inch of her exercised body. Their desires went beyond bodies and sexuality alone, because they were wise enough to want a commitment to a lifetime of transcendence, of change. And to achieve this, they would work with and next to each other when it was both hard and easy. Where was it to happen and when? They dreamed. By that spring, she had had her own apartment on a beach, the waves providing a 60 beat per minute sonic background which kept the left and right hemisphere of the brain soothed while she studied for her pre-meds. His father had loaned him his Southern California second home, assured that his son could eventually pay him rent because his salary as a financial planner would be sizable. May 23rd, they met. Were virginal in their exchange, his chest hairless and heaving, the light, downy, chlorine, bleached fuzz on her muscled legs literally stood with excitement. Neither of them aggressed, neither pushed. Their years of practicing effortless effort, of imitating dolphins, had opened the secrets of water, had opened the art and way of moving gracefully, under, in back of, beneath, and within the deep permission of liquid time and space, their birthright. And even though they had been competitors for years and continued to be as teammates on the varsity swim club, they understood that competing was actually doing your best, training both mind and spirit to do as well as you can, and learning how to relax and tense, to expand and compress when appropriate. Winning was being yourself. From that attitude grew an appreciation and knowledge of receiving and giving pleasure. And so from May 23rd until forever, they learned and practiced how to look, touch, caress, and slide effortlessly into eternal, well-balanced, and lubricated bliss.
Recipe for using sexual energy. 1. Make yourself physically comfortable. 2. Remember your sexual fantasies, issues, and events, both positive and negative. 3. See and feel everything in a detached, non-judgmental way, as if you are watching a movie. 4. When the memory bank is empty, transform sexual feeling into vibration. 5. Let the vibration travel to every cell of the body and mind. 6. Eventually vibration becomes soundless sound and lightless light. 7. Repeat whenever you desire.